So we'll start briefly, so then others can also join. Today, basically, we are on to like 12th session, which is actually the almost last session of the syllabus, where we try to understand NPLs and how we are going to managing these NPLs and how we are going to rehabilitate sick business units. That's what basically we are planning to discuss. So I have given you a presentation and also a kind of a reading material. So there are with details, but you can read through at your leisure. Starting with the presentation, generally we have on balance sheet and off balance sheet categories. You know what is on balance sheet is basically once we give a facility to customer, and if there is any cash out to the customer, and then if customer is getting money out from the bank, and as well as bank is giving money to the customer, so those will be considered as on balance sheet. Off balance sheet is basically we are giving a commitment, but we are not releasing money to the customer, right? So like it could be some guarantee bonds, LCs, acceptance, warranties like that. But off balance sheet any time could be on balance sheet as well when the customer or whatever the off balance sheet items is being demanded by the beneficiary, then it could be on balance sheet. Let's say the bank guarantee would be on balance sheet when they claim the bank guarantee, then it's a cash out, right? Like generally we have on balance sheet and off balance sheet. So some definitions: borrower, performing, non-performing. Borrower is basically the person or the entity is basically requesting money, advances, loans from an institution. And then before moving to the performing, you can define the non-performing easily under 46A of the Banking Act. So bad and doubtful debts, we will say NPL. Further, we will discuss how the NPL is going to understand. And when in a loan book, if you set aside the NPL, the rest is the performing advances, right? So now we try to understand NPL better so that you can exactly see what are NPL, what are PLs, right? So before NPL classification comes, then there is some exempted credit facilities, like let's say that you can say this is NPL, but we are not taking these facilities as NPL, like say facilities against cash would be exempted. However, these are some exceptions when you are taking cashback facilities as NPL. Probably you might experience this in your bank also, where cashback facilities we are not going to take as NPL subject to these criteria. Because if the balance, OD balance, facility value is more than the cash, then you can't say it's a fully cashback. In order to be fully cashback, there are some limitations, 90%, 95% as per the bank credit policy. And then you can anytime, set off those things if you feel that you need to get that set off, right? Since that we know the exempted credit facilities, now we move to the NPL classification, because NPL, so under 4 categories, OD, credit 5 categories basically: monthly installment, quarterly installment, and then a bullet loan and the credit card. There are 5 classification of identifying the NPLs. So this slide is very much important. You can put a mark or maybe important star on this slide, because sometimes the examiner might ask us, how we are going to define the OD, how we are define the installment loan, how we are define the credit card falling into NPL. Right? So you need to be a bit, attention on this slide, because this is important. If you take OD, let's say if you have approved OD, then if the customer is, keeping his balance over and above the approved limit for 90 days, then we say it's a NPL facility. And then if you see the current account where you don't have a limit, then if the customer is, making keeping a balance in the account for about consecutive 90 days, then it's be a NPL. That's how OD is being classified as NPL. Say, if a monthly installment, if 3 consecutive installments are not being paid, so it's NPL. Like if you say, if you are paying housing loan from the due date, so 90 days, like 3 months. If the due date is Jan 1st, so Jan, Feb, March 1st. So they are basically, you will have an NPL facility if you are not going to pay 3 consecutive installments. And then quarterly or half yearly, there are some facilities, like if you give a customer a short-term loan, say suppose it is due in 3 months. That if the customer is not going to pay in 3 months, from that onwards, you will give another 90 days to repay. So 90 days, if it is passing that could be again classified as NPL. Then there are some bullet, like if you say approved a loan, so after 1 year, customer is supposed to pay. So from the due date, another 90 days, if the customer is not going to pay, that could be NPL. A credit card, you're supposed to pay a minimum payment. So if you're not going to pay the minimum payment within a period of 90 days, that could be again NPL. So these are the most common products available in our banking book, and how we are going to classify them as NPL is the slide is all about. So as I was telling you, so it's a very important slide. So far what we are trying to understand here, what is NPL advances? When you know NPL advances by this definition, then rest of could be performing. And a previous slide we discussed, there are some facilities which backed with cash, subject to some guidelines, could be exempted from NPL. Right? Let's say when you say your banking book is 100 billion and NPL is say 10 billion, and out of that say 2 billion is cash back, then effective NPL is 8 billion. But remember, there are some rules governing cashback facilities, which is described in the previous slide. Once you classify them as NPL, then again you need to, follow it up and get them recovered, because it could have impact on your P&L. So in general, if the facility is in NPL, we can reclassify it as a performing loan subject to a customer is paying total interest due and total principal capital due, which is whatever capital and interest is in arrears. If the customer is going to repay that, then you can classify it as performing. 1. Number 2, sometimes we also do reschedulement of these NPL facilities. Now remember, if you undertake reschedulement prior customer becoming NPL, then you have a better advantage to treat them as performing, because then you need not to worry about keeping the particular account some period. But if the facility falling into NPL, then you have some problems, because you can see under B, NPL accounts which have been subject to rescheduling, whether in respect of principal installment or interest amount, would be eligible to upgrade to the PLA category only after the specified periods. In respect of following periods, subject to satisfactory performance during such period. That is the issue. When facility moving into NPL, then you are going to reschedule it, including interest or without interest, and then you need to keep them some particular period as NPL before moving to the performing category. Now we see what are those. Let's say if the facility post NPL is in special mention category, that means you can further classify NPL facilities, further identified NPL facilities under 4 segment, under 46A Act. Special mention, substandard, doubtful, loss. When it's in the special mention, once you reschedule, upgrade is only possible 90 days after first repayment of interest and capital being repaid under the rescheduled terms and subsequent regular repayments. Now you say you are going to reschedule a facility which is in NPL and which is in special mention category. Now you undertake reschedulement, but when can you bring that NPL into performing? Only after 90 days. But remember, so within that 90 days, customer has to regular service interest and capital. And if the substandard and doubtful category, you can't treat them as performing until you expire 180 days or 6 months. But again, you need to ensure interest and capital regularly pay during the 6 months. If it is a loss category, you can only bring it back to the performing after 12 months. So you can see our proactive approach would work much better than we waiting customer falling into NPL and do the restructure. So basically what we are trying to understand here is what is performing, what is non-performing, what are the non-performing classifications, and what are the exempted credit facilities, and how we are going to reclassify when they're falling into NPL. These are the areas that I just wanted to discuss with you, because in order to understand the sick business unit, so when you say the business is sick, so it's coming into your mind is basically customer is in NPL. That is also correct, but we do have a separate definition for the sick. But it's good that you understand what is this NPL, what is this performing, why we need to worry about NPL, what are the treatment that we need to undertake with the NPL facility, how we can reclassify. So those things is bit important, right? Any questions? Yeah, since we have a crowd. Yeah, last week. Jayani, you have asked about block loan. What is this? What's the like question like? I couldn't remember block loan. Can you explain it a bit further? Because have we discussed anything about block loan? No, not exactly remember block, because block, and generally we have loans like we can disperse it like stages kind of thing. That's one. And then when you say bridging loan also we have, because until we give a kind of a loan that we can accommodate a kind of in-between loan, that could be a bridging facility. I'm not exactly sure that we discuss about a block loan credit packaging. Was it in our tutor, Jayani? Last week, actually, we discussed about project appraisal, right? where that it is. I am exactly not remember. Maybe like this. It could be maybe, but something like, let's say now we can approve a kind of facility to a customer, and then so within that a customer can get the loans different tranches, right? But initially we never know what, like, the total the limit, whatever the actual requirement. So we can approve kind of some maybe the sort of block, or maybe a kind of a loan package, and within that, so depending on the requirement, so then he can draw it down. So that may be that could be a similar one, I think, because we are not generally, we are, in Sri Lankan context, we are very much, we are using this type of terminology. It's something like, say, now until that we are exactly understanding the total loan requirement, so we might keep a kind of some pre-identified loan package, right? And then within that, depending on the requirements, that you can draw it down for the requirement. That probably the one actually maybe we term as block loan. If anything different, Jayani, I'll come back to you, right? Because now when it's related to the credit packaging, it could be like this. So because now like maybe within that you have different requirements, but upfront that it's all about project, you may not in a position to understand what are the exact requirements, right? But once we approved as a kind of a package, right, is then within that, maybe the credit committee and the bank can again discuss with the customer, and then we can grant whatever the requirements towards the customer. So probably that may be the kind of insight when you say the block loan. Any other questions? Okay, guys, that basically that we are discussing is all about ODU comes, no, when you say ODU, Abhishek, not coming under the NPA category. Generally, in our loan book, we have current bucket. So where you don't have any delays, 0 days past dues, those are current. And then you have 0 to 30, 31 to 60, 60 to 90, like it goes on. But when you say ODUs, it could be 0 to 30 and 30 to 60. So those things are ODUs, right? Or maybe those things could be not in NPA. NPL is basically starting with 90 days, 3 months, that category. Let's say if you have a credit card, if you're not paying the minimum balance for 90 days, then you start classify it as NPA. Say 91st day, the minimum payment is due for 91 days, then it's NPA. But it's not 89 days, it's not NPA. That is basically, it is overdue up to 89 days. Beyond 90, it's NPA. Is it clear, Abhishek? Right. Any other questions? Okay. Another special announcement, probably I might not be able to undertake next week class. So please be informed on that. And so we will be meeting week after that. So that is the first week of September. Right? So we don't have classes for next week. Then we will continue the SIG business unit, right? Generally, SIG business units, in practically we understand, yeah, it's NPL customer. The customer cannot, pay. Customer is, experiencing some difficulties. So there are several understanding with respect to a business. But in more professionally, we can understand a unit which fails to generate internal surpluses on a continuing basis and depends for its survival on frequent infusion of external capital, so could be a SIG business. and some attributes, unable to pay debts as they become due, the normal course of business. Say, if the company is supposed to pay debts which has been obtained by the particular company for their business operations. Now they are unable to pay. One thing. Number two, the value of the company liabilities are greater than the liabilities and equities. If you see the company's liability, the company has borrowed, the company has the creditors kind of thing are greater, then it's like whatever long-term and equity, and then again you see some issue because you have dependent more on outside liabilities than the sort of the equity and kind of a long-term support. That also gives you some indication the company is in difficulty, right? So especially if you see the in terms of cash flows, if the company is not generating internal surpluses, actually the cash flow is very much important, though you have creditor, debtor, long-term, short-term liabilities and all that, correct. But how we are going to identify is, because if you are not generating surplus cash flows on continuing basis, then you are in trouble, because you can't even you pay off your debtors, settle your creditors, bankers, and almost all the problem. And then come to the employee, then come to the shareholder. So everybody in trouble. So that type of institution, that type of business unit could be attributed as a sick business unit. Then if you say balance sheet of a sick business unit, this is how you see. We take 1 or 2 examples. If you take liabilities, short-term borrowings would be high. Why? Because you need to go for short-term overdraft, temporary excesses, short-term loans, right? In order to support your current assets, in order to support your fixed assets, right? When come to the asset size, current assets would be stand depleted because some issue now. Assets there, but it's depleted, deterioration. Debt stock and unmoving inventories because you can't generate now cash. So this is some issue because you have some assets being funded through short-term liabilities, but in order to settle the short-term liabilities, now you have to settle the, turn around these current assets to debtors to cash, not happening, then liability is going up, right? So overdue debts, most irrevocable. That's also issue because now you have done sales against credit. Now debts are not forthcoming, some issue. So in a balance sheet, you can go item by item and you can understand what exactly happening. That's how you identify also. When you give a loan, when you doing a kind of inspection with respect to a project, then you basically look into what happening in the business. So you can see outside and activities you can monitor. In addition, you can request the customer to submit the P&L, balance sheet, cash flows. And so based on that, you can decide what exactly happening in the business, right? Like current assets, long-term assets, term liability, equity. If you take equity, gradually reducing, even negative. Why? Because we are not generating adequate cash flows, no profit. So the negative profits eating further equity. So equity is coming down. So if you see that over and over a year, equity is coming down, it means the company is not doing well. Some sick business symptoms. Right. So that's about balance sheet, how you see it. So this is very important because sometimes the examiner would ask, what are the EWs of the sick unit? So these are the 5 early warning signal sources. So you can remember this because this is important and we can go even one by one by discussing these things. Accounts maintained by the customer. When you say accounts, yes, you get the accounts and you discuss P&L, balance sheet, cash flow, and current account and operational account. So then you can see so many things as earning warning. Then financial statements, that is directly P&L, balance sheet. Site visit, inspection, discussion with management and staff. This could be like, so you visit the customer premises, you interview from top to bottom, and then you get different opinion. So then you can see something is happening. Then debtor, creditor, bill portfolio. That's also important because you have supplier, you have creditor, and then you can get some info from the business with respect to their performance. Informal sources. That's also important. So how much formal that you are going to talk about, informal sources also very important and useful. These are again very important slide. You can again put a asterisk, and again this has been tested in somewhere in past papers also, but could be repeated, especially during these circumstances. Right. So any questions before we move into the detail? Okay, thank you. Then we move to one by one, right? And then we try to discuss a couple of points so that, so in case of exam, they might ask what are the warning sources. You can write those 5. And if they ask about describe, you can select 1 or 2 points under each, and then you can support your answer. So account maintained by the customer, current account and loan account. Those are the 2 things that we need to be worried about. Because current account is just to see that, customer is, sending the throughput, and loan accounts, whether ODs are recorded. So turnover or credit to the accounts declines or become irregular. Why? Because sometimes if the businesses are happening smoothly, you can see funds are coming, going out in regular manner. So if you see some issues in the business, difficulties in the business, now you experience accounts of the credit are not regular or maybe continuously decline, then alarm bells to ring. Then you have to see why. You have to question. Maybe the customer actually not doing well in the business or diverting some of the turnover to some other bank. That again important. Why he is doing so? Relationship issue or what? Sales purchase is not routed through the account. Frequent inquiries on the account about excesses and all that, right? Temporary credit facilities. Check drawn, return unpaid regularly. Check deposit return. Frequent returns of bills purchase. I mean, so many things, right? So this is basically that you see how the customer maintain the regular accounts with you. It could be current account, it could be loan account. Right? Not like those days, the customer is asking frequent excesses, frequent TODs, not settling, false premises, and checks returns. I mean, like not honoring the payments, delay in monthly settlement, right? So those are some alarming signals under account maintained by the customer. So you need to be vigilant on those things. If these things are happening in the checklist form actually, so you can then and there, you can discuss with the customer, and you have to discuss what are the difficulties. It could be very real difficulties, right? So when you understand those things proactively, it's very easy. You can answer those stuffs, right? Then go to the financial. Financials is very key, though that we say for SME type customers, financials are not so important, but having requested the financials, having analyzed before giving a credit, and even post-lending scenario, focus on financial statement gives you a better view on what's happening in the business. Like this: non-submission, delay in submission, qualified opinions by the auditors, change in auditors, change in accounting policies, change in accountants, some alarm, not generally happening. There are some customers who change their auditors year and year, hire and fire their accountants, I mean very frequently. Can't be. If you see those things happening, you have to question why. Oh, depending on the facility size, they are supposed to submit quarterly financials. But you can't see not only quarterly, annual financials are not submitted now. Some issue. But what happens if they submit it quarterly? You can cross-check. You can compare with your budgets. You can early identify some issues. And you can do some projects. And you can do a lot of things. Right? Because this is all about projects. Not maybe 1 million, 2 million, 3 million facilities. Remember, we talk about this is all about future. It's all about business plans. All about cash flows. If something are not doing the right way, going the correct path, then and there you need to take actions. If not, we have a lot of issues. This is about balance sheet, then current ratio, then P&L. So you can go one by one. And when you take the balance sheet, start with asset, liability, current asset, current liability, equity, and you can see so many ratios. Now, if you remember, we did historical analysis, management analysis, forecasting. You have done those things. And then a customer is submitting the P&L balance sheet cash flows. Now you can compare what you have done with the previously, or else you can go through and analyze it. Where the current ratio is decline, constant, increasing, what happened to quick ratio, why turnover has been increased, decreased, what happened to inventory turnover, why the inventory building up is happening. You understand? So these are kind of a checklist. So when you do this, you can understand some issues. If over trading, under trading, right? I mean, debtors are piling up, checks are returning. So interconnected. Accounts to the credit, reduce. Checks, return. Debtors piling up. Stocks, depleted stock. Liabilities, increasing. Interest rates, interest component, increase. So you can see so many things. One starting point, triggering from one, will link it to everywhere. If you remember correct, we discussed several ratios. So everything will now be interconnected. If the customer is in trouble, then you need to give answers, right? Before giving answers, you need to understand the position. It will go for the balance sheet. You can read through. Even profit and loss accounts also, you can find some. Decline in sales, no provision for depreciation, change in depreciation policy, maintenance is low for fixed asset, other income is highly fluctuating, profits coming down, losses increases, right? So like those things could happen in the financial year that they have submitted information, right? Before moving to the point 3, we have done the point 1 and 2. Any questions? I know these are not difficult, but very important area, important topic we are discussing. One thing is timely, and again, exam relevance would be very much high. Any questions? No questions? Probably it's not difficult, but I just want to repeat it again. Important in terms of present context. Again, important in terms of examination as well, right? Okay. Then inspection, site visits, discussions. We call this what do you call on-site, right? Off-site is something what we have been doing, item number 1 and item number 2. Being in the office, going through the system, going through this record submitted by the customer, you do internal analysis. So you find some data, information, trends, which could be relevant to customer sick behavior. But this one is a bit difficult, different. You visit the customer, you observe the premises, observe the operations, you discuss with the stakeholders, including shareholders to directors to senior managers to operation staff to, I mean, everybody. You gather different information, or you may be able to validate what you found out in offline activities, offsite activities, P&L balance sheet analysis and the account analysis. So you now know some quantitative data. You are going to validate with qualitative data with this type of interactions. Now what you see? Comparatively reduce activities. And also see comparatively higher number of activities, but loans are not paid. Some issue, no? Labor turnover is high now. Key staff may have been dead, or resignation of key staff, less communication, less cooperative. Previously, you go, you will be like treated like kings. Now this time you go, even there is nobody to welcome you. And to that extent, right, the treatment has come down. Negative staff attitudes. You can see they are angerous, uneasy, right? Not caring the suppliers, customers, right? Labor unrest, strikes. Also you can see irregular attendance in board meeting. So that is maybe the directors are not very much in cooperation in continuing the company activities. So these are something that you need to be vigilant, alarming, right? Now, not like quantitative, qualitative data also very much important. Then debtor, creditor, bill. These again all about working capital, this part, liquidity. So you observe data book, creditor, stock, and you see what actually happening. Return of sales, delay in reimbursement of return bill, heavy discounting, slow collection, dumping goods on credit, unable to pay creditors. I mean, so many problems. If you remember correct, earlier instant, we have discussed the importance of working capital, management of working capital, efficiency ratios, liquidity ratios. If I'm not going to maintain those properly, now it will have a cascading effect to profitability, to efficiency, to other. So very important. If these things are not happening, then we need to understand how we are going to do this, how we are going to manage these things. Informal sources. This is again important, right? There are so many sources which may not be very formal, but this gives you some valid information through newspaper, through gossip channel, right? Through suppliers and all that. So you get some, news about customers, news about businesses. May not be 100% or exactly true, but you can work on those things, right? So when you get news through informally, then you also can work on with the data you have formally. And then if you see a further analysis is required, you are supposed to take those things forward, right? Maybe nature of signals like bankruptcy, petitions, summons, bus reports, firm in trouble. So these are the things that you might hear. Let's say maybe gossip side would say this company, land seller, land developer, may be getting money from the customer and not delivered, not given away the title deeds timely. Maybe a concern for you, because the customer is the particular customer or developer is banking with you. But there are some gossip side. It could be a competitor work, but good to scan it. You might directly check with your company borrower. Why? Have you noticed this? There is a kind of gossip article, right? Is it anything that we need to be watchful, right? So that sometimes the gossip news may be very much correct than those things come in the public. So though informal, could be important because you deal with the money, right? It's a big money. If you know them is correct, then you can take some precautionary measures in order to manage or minimize the impact on your loan book. So that's why we need to understand whatever the trigger, formal, informal, to take it positively and work out and thrash out any issues that come across in future. Right. So basically, this is very important part. Again, it talks about early warnings, how to understand the SIG business unit, and there are 5 early warnings, and within which we have learned several sub checklists as well. So if the examiner asks us about what are the early warnings in identifying the SIG business units, you can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and briefly describe. Yes, you can take 3 or 4 items under each, and you can describe that. Right. Any questions? Yeah, Sanjeev, you have a question. Loans are granted for projects. Can the financial statements provided by the customers are accurate as compared to an organization financial statement which was already in the business? Right, Sanjeev, it's two-way. Let's say we have a company and the company is existing business, and if it is existing business, then they will have past financials, current and forecasted financials, and when they about to take a loan, though if it is not a project, if they want to take a loan, then we can also compare their historical financials with the future financials, because they have been continuing it for about ages. That's one. Number two, if we don't have any previous financials, a customer starting a new project, example, maybe apartment, maybe a garment factory, tea factory. But what we can do is at the time of the granting of the project, we can do forecasting for the next 5 to 10 years. Based on that, so we approve a loan and we disperse and we monitor the financial parameters. Then after, the customer, once the project started, they can prepare actual financial for the future period. So we will get that and we will compare with what we have projected. If we see a major deviation, then it's a question. Why? We have done some projections for the future with respect to the project. So based on that, our repayment period, repayment ratios has been agreed upon. Example, if we see that for the next 5 years, the turnover is like 100, 110, 120 like that. And when the actual operations say turnover is not 150, 55, 60, then we have a question. Then we need to renegotiate with the repayment terms with the customer. So why first place, why 100 come to 50? If it is 50, how we are going to service, maybe extended tenor or whatever, we need to be revisit on the proposed project repayment plan. So Sanjeev, you in your question for the projects, yes, we have a risk, but once the project started, yes, the customer can prepare audited financials for the future period. And we compare it with what the projected data we prepared at the time of financing the project. Is it clear, Sanjeev, or need a further clarification? Right. What about others? Any questions? Basically, so far we discussed about a brief description about performing NPL, non-performing facility, classification, exceptions, how to reclassify NPL. That's first part. Then about early warning signals in SIG projects, 5 early warning, and also we discuss about subtopics. Now, third that we are discussing is again important, that is causes of sickness, right? So early warning is something how you identify, right? Basically, there is a project, something is happening, and early warning signals is to understand, monitor the behavior of the project, and based on that, so you would say this is the causes of the business, causes of the sickness. Excuse me. External, internal. So when you say internal, it could be managerial, product, process, financial, marketing. External is totally beyond the control of the firm or the company, right? So it's like this. Say I am running a company and I have taken a loan. So while I am running the company, my business could move to the SIG category. That could be due to some external sources like government action, natural disaster, a competition. That is external because it's not within my control. But similarly, it could be with my control. That's internal. Maybe some issue in the management, senior, director, whatever kind of thing, some issue with the product, or some issue with the production process, or maybe some financial discipline issue, or maybe marketing issue. Then again, it could be a sickness could be created, right? So again, this is important slide. A sickness could be created due to two sources, internal, external. When come to internal, it's further classified under 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. So we will discuss those things further. Managerial could be like this: incompetent, lack of leadership, lack of delegation of powers, death of key personnel, disagreement among directors, poor industrial relations. So those are some of the things that a managerial perspective, a managerial things. Say management is not capable, could be an issue to a company going bankrupt. Disagreement among directors, partners, could be issue. Initially, they were very happy bunch of people, and later there are disagreements. Or maybe actioning, poor planning, poor organizing, poor management, those things. So due to this, you have some issues created in running the organization. Number one. Product is wrong. Product is not matching with the demand. Oh, substitutes available in the market. Oh, product good, but highly competitive market, less margins. Quality raw materials have an impact on the product. So it's something about product related. You need to now revisit now or dismantle it and go for another product modification. I mean, those things that you can have to do because we identified this is product oriented part. Process, issues with the production, issues with the process, issues with the people, issues with the technology you are going to use. Oh, the poor quality or the poor performance of the machines, and then wastage of material, unnecessary expenses on the production process, a layout issue. You can't preach to the economies of scale, though you have originally projected. So there may be so many issues. So because of that, the cost of production would be high, or delivered on time. Maybe issues with the suppliers, debtors. I mean, those are some of the things, again, you need to be worried about. That's process oriented. Financial. That is low equity. Project cost overrun. Then diversion of funds. Costing pricing done inaccurately. Outside borrowings might have been taken. Unplanned capital expenditure. Those are issues inherent to the project which could create a business is now not performing. If you take one example, unplanned capital, because bank, project sponsor agreed upon some activities. Now what happened is, in the implementation stage, the sponsor up to go to unplanned capital expenditure, which could be using the bank funds or else customer funds, resulting cannot complete the project as expected, cannot run the project as expected, which has some major issues. Or maybe project costs now become higher, now cost overrun, due to various reasons. It could be something internal to external. So because of that, then you need to go for the further debt. Sometimes the original bank might not be willing to support you because it has reached to whatever debt ceiling. Then you go for third party, outside borrowings, which are further higher cost. You also have to pay also the same. Debt burden will be very much high. So financially, you are in a difficult situation. So basically, now when you say product, process, management, financials, each has an equal role. You need to be very much attentive on those. Finally, the marketing. Market dominated by multinationals, too much dependence on few buyers, inadequate product base. So there are some things that also you need to be vigilant. And just to recap you, last week we discussed about some feasibilities. That feasibility is discussed about financial, marketing, management, technical, remember. So that before starting the project, you look into the feasibility of the project. going into different angles. So similar items now being tested here also. In the causes of project failure is basically through these feasibilities. Earlier, you say you have a very good marketing plan, good advertising, good distribution, and this is how we are going to manage in a competition. But when going to the practical scenario, if you are unable to do that, that could be again the marketing risk that you are talking about. That resulted some causes to impact your project. Hope you understand that. Any questions? Right. Then finally, external. This is beyond control of the company, shareholders, even the bank. There are some occasions, some external factors could come and impact the project performance, like what happened recent past about COVID-19 impact and about Easter Sunday attack and natural calamities like flood and some rains, those things, and maybe government directions, or taxes, duties, or customer changes and differences, change in the technological applications, international developments like what happened US, UK and Russia, like that. So these are external, but you are receiving it. You need to identify, take precautions, and you have to manage those things as well as you can. And sometimes you're unable to manage, so then you're going to lose your business opportunities. So basically, in the business, it could become sick. A sick can be caused due to external, internal. External is basically beyond anybody's control, anybody in the sense bank and the promoter. But when it comes to the internal, it is very much in the control of promoter, to some extent bank. So you have to take serious efforts to minimize the impact internally, creating sickness. Right? For that bank, responsibility is managing, monitoring the action agreed at the time of granting the credit, approving the project, maybe through terms and conditions, through following up with whatever activities, to track the financial performance, so like that. So basically, then the sponsor's perspective, he has to work with bank and whatever other shareholders with agreed timelines, following the whatever relevant timelines, targets, KPIs, to smooth running of the project. If not, what you can experience is you see a failure of the project implementation, or you are not generating adequate income as expected, which could cause problems to pay off your debtors, suppliers, dealing with outside parties like tax authorities and all that. So you end up with some problematic situation. Right. Any questions before moving to the managing the sick business? Any questions? Ola, okay. Jayani, Abhishek, Nilushika, Samanmali. We have less people today. So nearing end of the syllabus, crowd has also come down. But today is a bit of important topic. So as I was telling you, next week we don't have classes, and week after that we are going to start with past papers, so that we can discuss with past paper questions on selected basis until the final revision comes. Probably during the September we will be able to do the past paper question, so that it maybe have a more benefit to you than continuing with the theory classes continuously, right? So then next part is managing. It's good that you identify, it's good that you know what are the causes, and then managing is the key, right? So when you say managing, very high level, what you need to know about, prevention, awareness, understanding the problem, determine the objective and strategy, devising action, reporting, monitoring. So these are very high level activities that one should take care of. So we'll go by different steps to understand this problem loan managing process. Most important thing is, once a business becomes sick or maybe problem loan, you need to understand who the customers are. Early defaulter, difficult customers, doubtful customers, dormant, disease, legal action, bankruptcy. So like that. So in your banking book, in a sick portfolio, you can understand who these type of customers are. So if it is so, then different action plans you can devise. You can have different action plans, right? Then the first step is, first you understand what is the problem, right? Let's say this is the loan. Now it's a problem situation. You understand what is the problem. And then you have to understand the nature and the seriousness. Then you have to understand what is the bank's position and what are the options we have to do. Then how to deal with the contingencies. Then plan and monitor. This is the kind of, the process. So we'll discuss those things in later. Like let's say the customer tells you that I'm unable to pay it. So probably you need to understand what exactly the reason. It's a marketing issue. It's a cooperation issue. It's the external issue. So like that. So you need to understand how the impact is critical, then very serious. What are the options? Can we revive the business? Can we find an investor and run it? Can we dispose the property like that? So those sorts of things are there. So like that. So this is the kind of, generally the process. Analyze. Determine the causes. Like remember external, internal causes. Disregard previous data. And it's no more. Before approving the credit, before disbursement, at the time of the project, some data are there. But those are not valid now. Why? New situation, like new normal, new situation. You have to see what is the present situation. What is my asset, my liability, my problems, right? New markets, new trends. Because that's why the customer is in this record, no? Up-to-date figures, projection. It's something now you have to see whether the originally we were supposed to generate monthly 20 million. Even post-implementation, customer was doing 15 to 20 million. But due to a present situation, customer now can generate 5 to 10 million business. Now different picture. Then you need to review documentation about, sometimes whether documents are in order, legal bonds are order, legal documents are order, offer letters are there, personal guarantee is intact. Because important now, because now we are in a serious situation. the customer in difficulty. You have to look into that also. Then what about collateral value? If you call the valuation, access, insurance, any other legal encumbrances, any caveats has been placed on the particular property. I mean, we need to, think it differently now. Whether viability, whether we are going to liquidate this business and settle this, or you try to go in concern basis, you are going to do this. Somebody, you change the management, right? And then what are the attitudes of other creditors? Whether they are also ready to give concessions to this borrower, other banks, finance companies, creditors. So these are some of the things that you have to do when analyzing the problem loan, analyzing the sick loan. I mean, bit different compared to credit officer's role. This is bit like investigator, right? Still you are supporting, but you have to have different hat. You look at it differently, things differently. The seriousness. As in the process we talk about nature, seriousness. Seriousness depends on these: defective documentation, poor credit evaluation, uncooperative, dishonest borrower, mistake, carelessness. So because of this, you see that bank position may be at very difficult level in terms of recovery of this credit. It's a defective documents, some issue. Even if you go to courts, you are receiving it. Credit evaluation may be bad. Structuring issues, I mean, tracking, post-monitoring conditions not be there. Uncooperative, dishonest. The borrowers are willful now. I mean, very difficult thing. You have to go to legal action kind of thing. Mistakes, carelessness of the bank's perspective. So we have done something. Maybe it has now impacted in a wrong way for the further actioning. So depending on that, seriousness is also high. I mean, this is not all about good customers. So this is not all about customers with bit odious but still cooperating. This is all about customers, I mean, are not in a greater position to honor the bank commitment because internal reasons or external reasons, or genuine or maybe not genuine reasons. So you need to understand the problem, nature, seriousness when you are devising the process. These are something that you can do in general. So you understand there is a problem, check the seriousness, nature, some alternatives. So you can discuss with the customer. These are some of the things in general we can offer. More frequent, high quality customer contact, relationship. Because when you are like, dealing with the customer more frequently, like a friend, so that helps you to settle some of the outstandings. Then drop him and saying, no point of continuing, I'm going for legal action. No, that way may not be okay. But if you have a good rapport with the customer, a customer may be taking your bank considering your bank as a priority. Reorganization, management change, so that is also possible. And maybe new management could be introduced to reorganize some structure. You can divest some of the functions of the business. And you start it from the lower level, downsizing, additional support, depending on maybe the bank or maybe third party owners. You need to bring some additional financing support to pump the working capital. You can sell some of the collateral, reduce exposure. Additionally, you can take some collateral, renegotiate terms, interest rates to collateral to terms and conditions to commission charges and all that. You can renegotiate. Then you can go to the government and see whether they can also do kind of a support. Maybe facility takeover through another bank, because other banks might be able to give a facility. Sell of the business, maybe lease out, selling of business could be a viable option. Advance more funds, maybe as a bank, yes, you may have to give some money to customer because to revive the business, maybe the customer is in search of working capital. Appoint a bank officer, the company board, because for the reasonable period, bank officer would constitute to be appointed in a company's board to oversee the revival operation, remedial measures. Right. Then in financial terms, we can do restructure, rescheduling, rehabilitations. So in general, we say rescheduling is something we amend, revise, change the loan tenor. We call rescheduling. If we do other changes as well, collateral to terms and condition to commission to getting additional collateral and giving some more loans, that is, you are changing not only tenor, other parameters of the loan, we call the restructure. And the rehabilitation is a bit different, right? It's again, try to a mix of restructure and reschedule, mean a kind of support to the customer. It's like this. Further advances, deferment interest, concessions, easing of covenants, freezing of due payment. So it's something like restructure, reschedulement is something more technical how we treat the customer. Rehabilitation is basically a combination of restructuring and rescheduling activities. More activity based, where restructure and rescheduling are basically how we are going to do this in terms of process, right? So, but in Sri Lankan context, we don't have a difference between rescheduling and restructure. We use common terminology saying rescheduling. Even central bank identify restructures as rescheduling. So we don't have to worry much about that. We say, yeah, rescheduling is again not only tenor, other parameters as well. Right. Any questions up to now? Before we discuss the last parts, that those are not very much important, but just for your understanding. Any questions? Okay, I know that not those are very difficult, but only thing is you need to be thorough with the concepts, so you can read through. I have given you a kind of a detailed document also. Please go through that as well, because for exam purposes, I think recovery, NPL, follow-up are very important in given context. So it's good that if we go through and try to attempt these type of questions, right? These are some of the things that what we do under strategic restructuring, right? So divestitures. What do you mean by divestiture? So you may be running the business and you come to a kind of point where you see that you have some issues in continuing the business. So probably what you can do is you divest some of the business activities, some of the components, some of the functions made to a third party. So then you know your control will be limited so that you have a better control. Maybe plant closing. Yeah, you have 3-4 plants, but for the time being, given the problematic situation, you can close some plants and continue with existing plants. Layoffs, because you need to send back some kind of staff given the problem situation. Like right now it's happening in most hotels. They have laid off some staffs because they are not getting adequate orders. Consolidation, sometimes you can bring 2-3 businesses together, so 2-3 departments together, or maybe even the back office work as well. Let's say you are running the kind of restaurants. Instead of having kitchens for each restaurant, you can have a centralized kitchen and you do everything and you deliver whatever your other restaurants with the required capacities. New marketing strategies. Maybe you have been doing different marketing strategies, and then you can adopt or develop new steps, new strategies for marketing purposes. New organizational arrangements and addressing the management issues, because if you see that some kind of things are happening not in your way, then you can address it. But basically this is more or less strategic level actions that you can take off. That's why we say strategic restructuring, right? So if you are like as a sponsor, manager, director, then what you could do strategically in terms of realign, reorganize your organizational activities. So that's why we say some strategic restructuring actions. So depending on the situation, depending on your analysis, you might take these type of actions as and when necessary. Composite settlement is another kind of a method where say now bank and customer agree, instead of a total money, so we agree about a lesser money. It's like this. Let's say you give a loan 10 million, and with that whatever interest and all that, it has come down to 15 million. Maybe out of the total 15 million, the capital could be maybe out of the 10 million come down to 8, and other charges and maybe the 7 million. So instead of you asking 15 million, you might agree with the customer to pay off say 11 million or 12 million. And you will write off the rest of that 3 million because it's the charges, interest and late payment. Because why? It is important for you to do that because you can reinvest that money into a good contract. Time value of money or time taken to recover full amount will be very longer. So those are the things that as a recovery officer that you need to take it up, right? Not everything will work, but rather than taking a court case legal action for about a very longer period, you have to take that type of actions also depending on the situation. Workout. Now, composite settlement is one, and workout is a different terminology and technique. Where again a borrower and bank, so they basically come a kind of agreement to effect a workout. So which basically we first get the accurate financial picture of the business, then financial strategic plan for the next 3 to 4 to 5 years in order to revive the business. So they convince the owner management to act on basically that action plan and creditors to accept the plan. So basically here now the workout could be where you deal with the creditors and owners and the bank as yourself. So you will agree because you sometimes also forego some kind of thing. Similarly, the creditors, because without doing this stuff, we can't revive the company. So we have a kind of a plan agreed upon by the owners agreed upon by the creditors, and then we will supervise, monitor the action in a predetermined period until the business comes to normal. It's another methods available in the market as a recovery measure than going to the legal action that I am talking about. This composite settlement, workout, or negotiated settlement are kind of things we are trying to do it prior to taking a time-taking legal action. Because if you want to go to legal action, yes, you have that option. You can do that. But remember, it takes time, right? Time, cost, and it affects your liquidity also, because you are getting the money after 10-15 years legal battle, maybe very a small sum. Through a composite settlement, you can get the money well in advance, and it's maybe very win-win solution for both customer as well as the bank. Legal is a last resort, not the best option. Uncertain legal interpretation. So that's why I was telling, if there's a defective documentation, you will be at a receiving end when you go to the courts. Or time taking, higher charges, maybe relationship are sour between the borrower and you. So better you try everything beyond legal action so that we both have win-win solution. Then what are the legal options? Right, legal options. There are several legal options available if you go for a legal action. It's a parate, debt recovery are very important. You know, if the property is owned by the particular borrower, sponsor, then you can go to parate action, which is vetoed by the bank's board of directors. And if it is not, then you go to the debt recovery action through courts, which is time consuming. Or you can go to judgment debtors, can issue notices, repossession, you can cease and sale, bankruptcy, winding up. There are several legal provisions in case if you want to recover your debts. But advisable is go for negotiated settlement. I mean, pre-legal scenario where, which is very difficult to recover all your debts when you go to the legal action. This is a rehabilitation. Right. Before moving to that, but I want to share some thoughts on the kind of summary on this. I will right. Hope you can see the board. I just want to share the kind of overview on this recovery because it's important. Now, basically, today what we are trying to understand was the SIG business unit. When it comes to the SIG business unit, most important thing is identification. Number 2, handling. Number 3, monitoring, control. Follow up basically. So identification is basically we have done through early warning signals. And there you learn 5 points under that. So you identify it. Then handling is basically what we do about restructure, reschedulement. Is how we are going to handle those things. And then rather than monitoring and controlling, I must also say it, control low, prevention. Third one would be the prevention, right? So that is again pre-lending, post-lending. I will explain it, how it's happening. Generally, when you say SIG business, today we learn about what is performing loan, what is non-performing loan, under 46A Banking Act, we define what is non-performing loan, what are the exceptions, and when you define the non-performing with respect to each product category, overdraft, installment loan, credit card, bullet loan, and revolving loan, and how it becomes NPL, and what are the exempted credit facilities of NPL, which is cashback. And once you say this is NPL, the rest of it is a performing loan. And then when you say NPL, falling into NPL, then if you want to bring back to the performing category, what exactly you have to do. But there is a kind of issue when the NPL classifications, NPL classified components move into the performing category, which is where, depending on the category of NPL, that is substandard, doubtful, loss, you need to keep them NPL category for about prolonged period. That is the first one we discuss about that. Number two, when come to the SIG business, we try to understand what is SIG business unit and what are the early warning signals. We discuss about 5 early warning signals. So under that 5 early warning signals, so we were able to discuss there are 5 sources of early warnings, and under each source we discuss several items. So this could be exam question. Here basically how to identify SIG business unit, that's critical. Number 2, when you say handling, when it comes to the handling, once you identify, you need to treat them. You need to look after them. You need to care on those facilities. How we are going to do is basically, that is pre-disbursement. Sorry, when you are trying to handle it, you can take 3 methods: soft, medium, hard. So you handle soft recovery, medium recovery, hard recovery activities. Mainly restructure, reschedulement, rehabilitation is coming under this. When you say soft recovery, as Abhishek questioned me, the customer is in overdue, it's alarming. Though it's yet to become NPL, but it's showing some sickness. Then how we are going to manage those things is, you may visit the customer, you give a call, you write a letter, right? So you know you are going to interact the customer more frequently. So like that, you try to bring the customer to performing level without much hassle to him as well as you. That's soft recovery. Especially when you do soft recovery, you are not even transferring that particular facility to special unit in your bank. It's done by the relationship manager itself. Then come to a medium type of recovery, where you see this customer not easy through a phone call to get them loan credited. Some issue. Beyond that, yes, you need to do something. Then you talk about reschedulement, restructures, and rehabilitation work, where you try to give some support in terms of financial or non-financial. We discussed that. Or if you see some issue with the customer, it could be something about workout we discussed, composite settlement, negotiated settlement, finding a buyer, giving additional funding. I mean, so many things you can do. So that is come under medium type of recovery. Third, hard. What is hard? Legal actions. When come to the legal action, you can go debt recovery, money recovery, parate, liquidation, winding up. I mean, so many things in the legal book. If you cannot handle under soft recovery, medium recovery, then you go to the hard recovery. There are some customers requiring hard recovery activities, actions also. That's the second part. Third one is basically a control, a prevention, which is very important. Though we have not discussed it today, we have discussed it some time back. I just want to bring your attention here because SIG business, identify, handling is important, but our purpose should be control them, prevent them, move into the SIG category. Then how we are going to do that? That could be done in a two way, that is pre-approval, post-approval. Pre-approval techniques, post-approval technique. So what is the pre-approval technique is, which is we have done last week. That's about do your evaluation properly, do your feasibility properly, project cost, financial evaluation, whatever investment analysis. So everything you do it properly. Then if you do a proper evaluation, feasibility, identifying the risk, then chances of the customer classifying into the SIG, especially internal perspective, limited. External, yes, there may be a chance because everybody's control, anybody's, it is beyond everybody's control. But internal controls are subject to our control. So if you do a proper analysis, you can minimize facilities falling into SIG. That's one. Number two, a post-approval. What is post-approval? You approve subject to some terms and conditions, subject to some guidelines, subject to some restrictions. So based on that, what you could do now, based on that, you can do activities and you can do a proper implementation of the project. You remember last week also we learned that implementation is key. What are the things you have to do? Stage-wise disbursement, inspection, and then use of funds. I mean, bring in the customer equity to the project, and then it is in line with the approved terms and conditions. So when you do all those things, then you know exactly the project is completed as expected by the sponsor and the bank. So then what happens is, when you do those things, it is very rare a possibility that a customer falling into the bad category, SIG category. So these three are very important. So exam, they might ask questions from here, here, here. So this could be answered from the last week, these two from today's perspective. And then here you identify and we control. One part could be here forces, that is internal, external. Due to internal, there are 5 things we learn, and the external, SIG businesses are created. So we define, understand, and then we identify through early warnings and sub concepts, and then handle through soft, medium, hard, SMH approach, then we control them pre-post basis. This is all what the summary that you need to understand. Any questions? Any questions? Sanjeev, Arushika, any questions on what we discussed so far? Okay. So basically, what we have been doing is we discussed introduction to credit project financing as session 1. Then we discussed about SME financing and SME products, types of sources of financing to entrepreneurs as the section 2. Third into the microfinancing, and last basically was the project financing area, right? So the project financing took the kind of a major portion. So those are the 4 areas of the syllabus. And then as I was telling you, we have not discussed some further nitty-gritties in each area, because I thought to discuss those things when we undertake past papers, basically, because so that then we it get further value addition to the kind of concepts when we do past papers. So like if you take SME, maybe issues faced by the SMEs, issues faced by the financial institutions when we grant SME facilities are important areas which we are trying to understand through past papers, right? So that's kind of my plan. So since that we have done almost the syllabus, what you can do is you also, I think, get the past papers. I think I'm not exactly sure the past papers are available in the Google Drive. So if so, start the last 4 or 5 past papers and take 1 or 2 areas and see whether you can go through the question and answer, and then you are in a kind of a position to understand the answers, whether your approach is correct, any gray areas, right? So like that you can think and discuss it. So what we will try to do is, so we'll start with some maybe questions from, maybe let's say you can start with say SME, or you can start with investment analysis also, because those things are very much frequent. And then not next week, so week after that we can start discussing the past papers. So in the meantime, if you do have any questions into what we have done so far, or even the past papers that we are going to do, maybe we can't capture all past papers relevant to one section, but we'll select 1 or 2 questions. But if you see that any other questions that which is a bit difficult for you to understand in some other paper which are not planning to, please let me know, so that we can discuss it, and then we can do it not the immediate week, maybe the following week. Because if you do have past papers with you, so then again it's fine, because I can have the past papers here, though maybe uploading may not be easy at the simultaneously. Then I can have the past papers, and if you do have the past papers with you, then we can do that sort of exercise as well. By the way, that you have the past papers with you for the last few years through the Google Drive, Jayani? Jayani, we are telling in the internet, IBSL open for students. I will check it, Jayani, because now they told that it is available, but if not, then what the other option is that you have to purchase, but I'm not sure whether you can come over here and purchase it, because otherwise I can upload it some past papers here. That is also possible, right? So then what happened is our study is limited to those papers. So I will check whether these guys can upload last 2-3 year past papers to this. So then and there we can select and do the question. If they are not uploaded already in the internet. What about others? Have you tried to get the past papers here? As Jayani was telling, I think past papers options are not available right now. Is it? Oh, I'm not sure they are planning to do the revision. So then with the revision, they are going to open up the past papers. I am not sure. I'll double check. But if not, what I can do is I will share the past paper that I am going to do with you, and then we discuss it in that way. You also can come up with like a difficult area that you are having, so that I can start it from that. Any interested area that you need to start it. So what are the past papers that you want to do first? Right, Sanjeev, you are telling about development finance is not there, so I'll double check. Past papers on IRR, Sanjeev, yes. Yeah, so we will do IRR question. Investment appraisal, I know that it's not easy because we have done only 1 or 2 questions here. So we'll do 1 or 2 questions in the past paper discussions as well. Any other? Right. Okay. If you don't have any other questions, that we can wind it up for today. Do you have any questions? Abhishek, Ilushika, Tarushika, any other questions? Okay, so then what we'll do is we don't have classes for next week. For week after that, for the first week of September, so we'll start in classes and we'll start with past papers. Probably we can start with investment appraisal questions or SME, right? So you can have those things ready. So in the meantime, Jayani, I will check with the IBSL people whether they can upload the development financing past papers to the Google Drive. So again, thank you for being with me. So have a nice week ahead. Okay, take care, brothers.